that's one of the issues that I'm addressing in this campaign, and I've been talking about it since 2008 when I ran for city council, is in an economy like we're experiencing now, this is a new economy. It's not like before where you could go in a recession and then, you know, the economy would get better and manufacturing would come back. I mean, 20 years ago, we had about 60% of manufacturing in the United States, and now you have 11%. So things are changing, and the reality, those jobs are not coming back. Now, as far as the impact phase, one thing I'm recommending in Battleground, our impact fee is about $9,525. So if you're gonna come to Battleground and have a brick and mortar for a business, be ready to have that much money. I think that's too much. If you have someone who's a developer wants to build a house, they have to come with about $20,000 just to build a house. That's excessive, you know. So what I'm recommending, and that's one of the plans I'm offering in Battleground, I have what I'm called 11-point plan is, I think what we should do in Battleground, you know, I'm a city council member in Battleground, so I'll address this issue, talking about Battleground. First thing I'm recommending is let's put a moratorium on impact phase. Yeah. What that's gonna allow, it's gonna allow a lot of businesses to come in, you know, without this burden of impact phase. So let's put a moratorium. I'm proposing a 3-month moratorium. No impact phase, allow people to come and establish a business. After that, let's give them an additional 9 months where we can look at this impact phase and determine what is the optimum. 9,525 is excessive. Let's look at a number. I favor not go look at 9,525 and just doing 25% of that amount. So a quarter of that amount, that would be the impact fee. That would help a lot of business. I'll give you an example. We had a situation Battleground where a lady wanted to just start, it's a simple dog grooming, you know, business. And the business owner at the Battleground, the old Battleground village, the old Battleground, you know, the old Battleground Main Street, had a property. And he said, you know, you can use my property. It's going to be $500 rent per month. When the business owner went to the city to apply for the permit and all that, they said they wanted $9,000 in impact fees. The lady couldn't afford more than $500. So both dreams, you know, the man couldn't rent to the lady, and then, you know, the lady had to give up her dream. So I proposed that 25%, you know, for 9 months, while we are studying a better way to implement those. And the third thing I'm proposing is, instead of charging those impact fees at the initial phase of the project, wait until the end of it. So if you have a business owner, you know, give him time to recover the cost that he put in his initial investment, and then they can pay off those things. Now, that could be, the city could look at that as cost, but I think over the long run, it's smart investment. You attract a lot of business and over the long run, you'll have a lot of income, you know, in sales tax that's going to roll in the city. That's what I would do. So I think I would apply the same formula. You know, in Seminole Creek, I think it works anywhere. It would work everywhere in that situation. So as to that situation, I would do exactly the same thing. Let's put a moratorium. Let's cut them. No, don't go more than 25% of what it was, and then just put them at the end of the project. I think the way I'm going to answer your question is address your last point. How do you, because I don't want to set policies for the city of Vancouver. I live in Battleground. Now, so I think the last question you asked, how should we prioritize tax? Because what the question you're asking me, it applies to every municipality. In my 11-point plan, and that's what I've been advocating since 2008, is I think Clark County made a mistake, and this is in general. Back in 2000, when the real estate market was booming, everybody thought we'd have money forever. So we relied a lot on property tax. And in addition to that, you know, with the growth of the economy, we, instead of growing our manufacturing, growing our, you know, industry base, or economy based upon, you know, more business coming in and all those things, we relied on the property taxes. That's how we funded our schools. That's how we funded most of our services. And if we needed more money, we just increased the fees. What people didn't realize, and that's what I figured out because I understand finance, is the real estate market was actually weak because of those mortgage swaps and derivatives. Eventually, those things would fall. I recommended in Battleground in 2008, in the first budget that I voted against, that we have all this money here. In order for us to maintain our police intact, not face layoffs, and to maintain major services, let's reduce the size of the government. Yeah. Let's reduce the size of the government. Because we need to realize, in this new economy, you don't need to have a parks department to have parks. I have a business, a very successful business. I don't need to have a secretary in order to have secretarial work done in my business. There's something called a virtual secretary. It was much cheaper, and I was able to do that. We're able to consolidate with other people and use the same person to provide those services. This way, I was able to keep people employed. That's what Vancouver, that's what Battleground, and everybody do. So when the real estate market went down, and they started losing their tax revenue, now they're finding themselves having to lay off police officers, which is a mistake, in my view, because public safety is very important. They find themselves having to lay off people at the public works, which that could be a health hazard. If you have one person inspecting water for 160,000 people, how well is that person going to do that job to help all those people? So I think what municipalities need to do, including Battleground, let's look at the structure of our government. And let me explain by structure. Many years ago, you could go through a recession, and you knew you'd bounce back, and you could recover your tax revenues because your manufacturing is there. People would have jobs in manufacturing. That's no longer there. The unemployment is too high. So what we need to ask ourselves is, how do we run this municipality in a more efficient way? Do you have to have a parks department of parks? I say no. Look at what you have. You could do it differently. In your finance department, do you need the IT person in order to maintain IT in the department? No, you can privatize that. So we need to look at some of the private approaches that have worked in the private sector and see if we can incorporate those in the public sector and do a combination. But just raising taxes, you think you're going to spend yourself to success, it will never work. Let's look at the structure for our government and restructure that. In Battleground, I proposed that. I think it was a mistake to fund a new department. And what the city did in 2008, instead of looking at the structure and downsizing it, they created another department that's costing us about $500,000 a year. Last year, actually in 2009, I voted against the second budget because as the real estate collection was going down, I warned them. I said, we have our reserves were 25% of what our budget is. I said, other than using the reserves to balance the budget, let's downsize. Let's cut some of the services that we don't need. Let's look at the police department. The police blotter, for instance. Do you have to hire someone at $6,000 to keep a police blotter? Can't you take that and privatize it? Those small things which wouldn't have an impact on secrecy, not necessarily secrecy, on the sensitivity, of what we are doing. Some of those things you can take it outside. It could be done cheaper. This way you can take the money that you're saving and keeping a police officer. That wasn't done. So we took the reserves and balanced the budget, hoping the economy would get better in the following year. I knew it wasn't going to get better. So what happened the third year in 2009? Now they're laying off police officers, they're laying off public works, public service, and in addition to that, they raised property taxes. And they raised utility taxes. The utility tax went from 15% to 18%. The property taxes were raised by about 5%. So for instance, an assessment of $200,000, had they not raised those taxes, you could have, your property tax could have gone down by $50. Instead, they either stayed the same or they went up because we failed to change the structure. So the basic answer again is, we need to look at the structure of government. The economy is changing. Ask ourselves, how can we be efficient at this new economy? Do we have to have this? Do we have to have the parks department to do parks? Do we have to have the finance department to have? You don't. Do you have to have 6 directors to do the job? Can you hire someone at a managerial position? You know, in Battleground, you hire a director at 100,000. Can you hire a manager at 50,000? Who's going to do the job efficiently? Those are the kind of things we need to look at. But let me say again, I think I'm against raising any kind of taxes just to meet the tax burdens that the politicians created. We need to be creative and think smart, and that's what we're not doing. We're thinking like the 50s, what we did in the 50s, in 2010, in 2011. Things have changed. Again, as I said, we went from 60% manufacturing to 11. We will not go back to 60. We need to adjust. And putting admission tax, I think is a mistake. It's been proven, economists, in fact, if people want to read more, that they can look at my website, Zandamela.com, is studies have been shown time and time again that the government investment on sports complex is a bad investment. You know, if you don't believe me, go anywhere. Go to Florida, go to Los Angeles, where they have all these big stadiums. How are people really doing? I mean, are they making all this money? No, because those jobs are provided in those stadiums are generally not family wage jobs, are minimum wage jobs. So that investment burdens the people. Look at the Florida Marlins. You know, they put that burden on those people who are going to be paying billions of dollars for that stadium. Florida Marlins can move out of Florida anytime. The same thing could happen to us here. That team, that baseball team in Vancouver could come. We could invest so much money for that stadium. What is the guarantee that they're going to stay? They could leave, just like the Beavers left. It's a bad investment, and I wouldn't support it. Let me make it very clear. I don't think anyone likes gridlock. You know, we all like to leave work and get home quickly. And I don't know, a lot of people say, we are so happy with gridlock and taking 25 minutes or an hour from Portland to, to Vancouver or vice versa. I'm against the light rail as it is now, and I'm against the tolling and the toll tax. Because one thing that bothers me, in all this planning, I think those proponents of this made a mistake. The state of Washington began a long time ago to collect gas tax that were supposed to be dedicated to fix roads and do something. The I-5 bridge, it's a federal project which is going to be benefiting and serving in-state commerce. So for them to argue that 106,000 people who live in Clark County are going to be the major beneficiaries, hence they should be paying for this project alone, I think it's a mistake. And what that shows is they failed to plan 20 years ago, 30 years ago, where they should have used the gas tax revenue, where they should have petitioned the federal government to fund that project. And for some odd reason, they find themselves under stress, and all of a sudden they want to take that burden and put it on the people. So I'm against that because I think we just impose additional burdens to Clark County residents. About 60,000 Clark County residents work in the state of Oregon. Those residents are already subject to Oregon income tax. They have to pay that, and I'm one of them. In addition to that, you have some who pay the TriMet tax. That doesn't come back. We cross the bridge. We pay 8 to 10% sales tax. Now you are telling these people that they have to pay the toll now and then pay an additional tax, which could go up to $5,000. Where are we going to find that money? I mean, that's a burden on a family. The average income in the United States is $40,000 for a family of 4. Where are people going to find that money? And then you look at the problems in I-5. It's hurry up and wait. You come in Washington, you drive fast, things are going well, you get in the bridge, there's congestion. Whose problem is that exactly? Is that Washington's or Oregon's? And what is Oregon doing to address the congestion? Studies have shown too that even if they put all these lanes and they put the light rail, that will not speed up anything. It's going to be the same gridlock. Those are the major issues that I have. I think this is going to be a burden for us, and I think it's a mistake. I think the studies have not been done to show that the bonds that they would be taking, they would be paid on a timely manner, and they would be affordable. And I've asked one of the proponents, actually. I said, okay, so what happens after the bonds are paid? Are you going to take the toll? And they said, well, we'll see. The reality is just go to Indiana. You know, they have the tolls. What Mitch Daniels promised them, you know, after we pay all these bonds, the tolls are going to go. Have they gone? No, they're still there. You put it there, it never goes away. So I'm against it. Now, let's talk about the C-Train. I've talked to the CEO of C-Train. His name escapes me a little bit. You know. Yeah, Jeff. I talked to him. He came to Battleground many times, and he came with his, I believe, was his finance director. You know. And I've been taking the bus since 2004. I've been a regular bus ride. In Battleground, I took the 173, which used to take you from Battleground to Portland, and they changed it to, you know, the bus number 47. I know the bus transit system around Clark County because I've taken it many times. I can tell you left and right. I've asked Jeff. I said, Jeff, why do we have 199, 105, and 134? Explain me the logic. Isn't this duplication of service? He looked at me and said, it meets the plan. And I said, what plan? Who made that plan? He said, well, you know, our board. Now, examine who is in the board of C-Train. I'll talk about Battleground, for instance. You have Mr. Ganley. When is the last time Mr. Ganley took a bus to work? So you have people who don't understand the bus transit system making decisions to either raise the fees and going to make decisions on what the bus transit system should be in this place. In 2005, the bus pass, the express bus pass, that would take, you know, express bus to Portland was $52. You know how much it is now? It's going to $115. That's in about 4 to 5 years. I think that's ridiculous. That's poor planning. I'm giving an example of those, 199, 105, and 134. Why are they duplicating services? That's a cost. Another one I brought back in 2005 when they were trying to tell us that if we don't vote for the tax, the sky is going to fall and C-Train would stop operating. 173 would go from Battleground to Portland. You know how many people it would take to Portland by the time we go to Portland? About 3 people. And I told the C-Train, I said, why don't you just have a smaller bus or a shuttle van take people downtown Vancouver and they can switch and take 105? But no, they drove the bus all the way to Portland. That was inefficient. So I'm against it. I think C-Train needs to change the way it's operating. They need a citizen advisory board. We need to stop listening to Mr. Ganley. We need to stop listening to the mayor of Tim Levitt, to, you know, Barnes. I think that's Bart's, I don't know. He's running for city council in Vancouver. I think it's Barnes. Yeah, I think it's Bart. Yeah, he's in the city. We need to stop listening to those people, you know, because these are people who have never taken the transit system. They don't know this transit system. You know, if they're going to learn, they need to be the bus riders and talk to the people who take the bus system all the time. We need a citizen advisory board to advise the board. The board can stay there, but to give them suggestions how to improve it without, you know, going into the expansion, because it's going to cost us a lot of money. And let me give you another reason why this is a mistake. Jeff told me that C-Train and TriMet, there was some dispute about a $2 million ride exchange that TriMet was saying, we won't pay you because I think we take more of your riders and vice versa. Yeah? So let's put the light rail, as they want to suggest, crossing the light rail. Do you think TriMet is going to turn around and say, we are taking less riders and we're going to give you $2 million? It won't happen. If they're arguing that now, what are they going to do with that later? C-Train is going to go to extinction. You know? And if it doesn't, we're going to be found having to pay more to subsidize C-Train. You know? And I'll give you another reason why that's a mistake, is a lot of people who can will not stay here because there's no way they'll pay the tolls and pay, you know, the light rail to go to the other side. You give me a choice. If Oregon comes and gives a choice to someone who can, Molalla, you know, or anywhere, you know, Jervis say, yeah, if you move to our community, we're going to give you 2 acres if you can build here because they want your property tax revenue. What do you think is going to happen to those people who can? They will move. And who loses? We do. Clark County loses. So I don't support any of that. And what bothers me, and I'll repeat it again, is look at the board of CTRAN. If you don't agree with what they're saying, you're out. Look at the board of CRC. If you don't agree with what you want, what they want, you're out. A la Jean Stewart. She didn't agree with them, they kicked her out. How are you supposed to come with plausible solutions if you don't have voices of opposition? You just have yes men. It doesn't make sense to me. I think your question answers, it's your answer. So they went to his hybrid and they lost money. I mean, that's inefficient. What else are they looking for? They went to a model that doesn't work and they lost money. And now they're going to come and raise taxes so they can solve their mistake, which won't be solvable. That's what I was talking about in the previous question. You have people who don't understand how to run the transit system. Yeah. All due respect to Jeff, I think he understands it. But unfortunately, Jeff depends on a board that doesn't get it. Okay? It doesn't make sense. If it doesn't work, try something else. But I think we live in this era of the old God and old way of thinking about government, that we're going to keep trying the same thing and same thing time again until we can get it right. So let's raise taxes. Let's raise spending. Eventually, our economy is going to get better. So what do they think is going to happen if they raise the sales, they raise the 2%, is it 2%, sales tax? Is that going to solve the problem? No. What did they say in 2005? The sky is going to fall. We voted for it. Yeah? Now they're telling the sky is going to fall again. If people fall for it, they're going to come back in 2 years and the sky is going to fall. At a certain point, we need to change the way we do business. What we have trying, it's not working, let's try something else. But I think what they need to do, as I suggested, have a citizen advisory board, many of my friends who ride the bus with me. I've asked them, I said, look, I know the bus system around here. Invite me, I'll share with you. No, I'm not part of them. You'd rather have Mr. Ganley, who has never ridden a bus in his life. But you know what? He's been in politics for 40 years, so he knows it all. Let's have the mayor of Vancouver, Levitt, because he's the mayor. Even though he works 1 block from the city hall, he doesn't ride the bus. He knows everything. I think that's old God, that's old way of thinking about government. I think that's what's wrong with our government. Not only Clark County, not only Battleground, just go to Washington, D.C. That's what's wrong with it. We're not creative thinkers. Maybe because I come from a different continent, a different culture. I grew up poor. I didn't have anything. So we learn to be resourceful. When something doesn't work, we try something else. I was one of those boys who couldn't read or write until I was 15 years old. I didn't have shoes. I didn't have anything. So when I had the opportunity, I started trying things that worked. And when I noticed something didn't work, I would change and do something else. Maybe we don't have that in the current government. You have people who have never seen something different. You have people who have never traveled around. I've been all over the world. I've been in positions where I had to help countries in economic development. Bus transit, agriculture, I've been in those situations. And I've been able to work with people and help others succeed by trying different things until we find something that works. That's what we need here. Because short of that, I think your question answered, We failed, we're going to fail again, but let's raise taxes, because that's the answer. I think that's idiotic. I'm sorry, that's too strong, but that's what it is, No. I said, nobody is for gridlock. Yeah? you just mentioned something that's very important. You know, we have a constitution in this country. And one of the benefits of this constitution, and many people struggle for, it gives people the ability to vote. After all these years, and you have few people who will decide to impose a $5 billion burden without allowing the people a voice. And I'm gonna be for that? That's a mistake, and that's wrong. I mean, that's absolutely wrong, you know. And our kids, we're gonna pay for it, our kids are gonna pay for it, our grandkids are gonna pay for it, just because it's important for some politician to get his recognition. Who knows? You know, sometimes you become cynical on this thing, that some people have engineering firms, maybe they stand to benefit from it. Who knows? I don't wanna be that cynical, but how can I be in favor of something where you don't give people the opportunity to vote? What are they afraid of? What are they afraid of? If this is such a good idea, why don't they allow people a vote? And why are they afraid of? I was raised in a communist country. I know what communism is. And I know how painful it is. And I know what happens when you impose burdens on people and don't give them a chance. People struggle, people suffer. I lived in the Soviet Union. I lived in Mozambique. It was a direct communist country. I've seen this kind of thing. People see what they saw in Libya on TV. I lived that. That's what they're trying to do here. That's wrong, and I'm so against it. And unfortunately, we may not be able to stop it because few politicians with engineering firms and other things, they want it, and they'll get their way. You know, Seattle wants it, they'll get their way. That's a mistake. I'm so against it. I'm really against it. And if I can do anything, and that's why I'm running for re-election battleground, because one of my goals, and as I indicated this before, there are two other conservatives, and Philip Johnson and Shane Bowman, who are running. I would like them to win. I would like those people to win, because I think we can change the dynamics. We would change some votes that we can send to Vancouver for some of these things. We can change those dynamics. Perhaps we would have a chance. Josephine wins, Corey Bond wins, you know, Bill Torrey wins. Maybe we have a chance, you know, so it's not done yet. Maybe we have a chance. But I challenge people to vote for the three candidates in Vancouver. Vote for Josephine, vote for Corey Barnes, vote for Bill Turley, and come to battleground. Vote for Shane Bowman, vote for Philip Johnson, and vote for Paul Zandamela. I think we can stop this here. You know, and I can tell you the first thing I would do as mayor of Battleground, and I hope we talk about that one because that's a sore spot for me, is I would change the CRC representative, and I would change the C-Trade representative, because I think that would go a long way to change the dynamics in Battleground. So I don't know how I can be so clear how against I am for that, and it bothers me that they don't want to allow people to vote. What are they afraid of? What was Gaddafi afraid of? Why didn't he allow people to vote? You know, why would Saddam Hussein not allow people to vote? And we can keep going on and on and on and on. That doesn't sound like America to me. You know, we need to be very careful. You know, I don't think there's anyone who sits and say, you know, I'm anti-growth, I don't allow anyone to move to my neighborhood. I think a lot of us want new neighbors. We want people to have opportunity to buy a home and raise their family. That's a desirable thing in America. We all want to have that, you know, house of picket fence, you know, so we can raise our kids. One thing I said in 2008 in Battleground, I said, let's be careful urban sprawl. I know these urban growth boundaries were being given, and we are being given the passport to annex anyone, you know, and that's what's happening in Battleground. They just keep annexing people. We're just putting a burden on police anyway, you know. We talked about the burdens that the police was imposed, and was being imposed in Vancouver, the same in Battleground. You know, one of those issues is this sprawl. We don't have the resources for public safety, yet we have no problem increasing our urban growth boundaries. And when we do that, the way we design or we approve our building codes or our zoning, it's such a way we allow a lot of housing, knowing that maybe in 10 years, those places can become undesirable. So let's have 50 apartments. Well, who's going to rent? So I think just to be cautious, I want people to understand, I'm not against anyone moving in and building a home. But we need to be careful we're not growing too much for our own good. It's not like we have run out of land in the Clark County, place to build. There's still land available in the places where it's been zoned for residential. We still have land in places where it's been zoned for commercial, where people can still go there. So what is the rush? Why are we rushing? Because some developer thinks it's a good idea, he can make more money? I don't know. Because some politician thinks it's a good idea? I don't know. I think it's a mistake. We need to study these things carefully. I don't think it's a mistake someone building a home and coming. I think we need to be very careful. I can't speak on issues of Vancouver, and I need to be very careful. I can't speak on that. I don't want to make policy of Vancouver. So I'll take it to Battleground. I think Battleground is continuing to make, and I think this is probably true in many communities, where they take this annexation laws and use it as eminent domain, to pretty much take private property however they wish. We had the Cedars in Battleground, where the city council decided, we're just going to go and take this golf course here in this area, give to this developer. Never mind what everyone thinks around them, And at the same time, our public safety, we don't have money to find the police officers to afford it, so they're stretched. And we made those mistakes where we started growing so much and it became a sprawl. And all of a sudden we have apartments that are not being rented. I think that's not good for a city, So I think what I would do, I don't know what's happening, I don't know their problems in Vancouver, But in Battleground, I've said it time and time again, I'm against further expansion at this point. I think we have land within we can keep building in. I'm against annexation at this point. Unless people come and they really want it, and they have 6% majority vote, if they have the majority, they can come in. But we shouldn't be going then soliciting more annexation, wanting to grow just because it feels good. It's a mistake. I think it puts a burden on public safety, public waters, and it puts a burden on taxpayers. Because the only way you can afford to subsidize more or pay for the police is when you raise taxes. There's no other way. Unless, not that we didn't make the right decisions, as let's bring out the industry here. The only thing you can do is raise taxes. So I would think the answer is the same in Vancouver. And you talked about the third bridge. What do we need a third bridge for right now? We can't even afford one bridge. So we're going to build a third bridge? That doesn't make sense to me. I have a better way. And I've said this since 2008 when I came to City Council. I think one of the weaknesses we have in the state of Washington, you have 48 states who have what they call tax increment financing. We don't have that in the state of Washington. Yeah. Those states that have tax increment financing have the ability to offer tax incentive to private investors to come and do things in lieu of using public funds to do things. And I think investors, entrepreneurs who have money, if you give them an incentive, they will come and do good things. If you don't believe me, go to Beaverton, go to Hillsborough. That's where the tech companies are going because they give them an incentive to come. If we can convince the state of Washington, and I think we can, if I were the mayor of Battleground, the first thing I would do is to bring my 2 state representatives, Ed Oakart and Rivers, and bring my Senator Joe Zarella and talk about this tax increment financing and say, look, we are at Southwest Washington, we're at disadvantage because we're competing against Oregon at the proximity where they have this. So if a company comes and they say, well, I want to build this widget company, why do you give it to me? Oregon has an option. Hey, just come here. That's how they developed the Pearl District, tax increment financing. They go to the other side. Look at Pendleton. How was Pendleton developed? Tax increment financing. So that's the new approach we need to take, because that gives incentives to private investors, people who would want to invest to come to your city, use their money, knowing that they're going to get a break on, any other tax that we may give. That the government may suffer a little bit, but over the long run, they will build your road. That road is going to be there for a long time. They can build your pool. It's going to be there for a long time. And that's the approach we need to take. I think that would be the simplified way. That would be a better way. But to do what we are doing now, I don't think it's working. We're at a major, major, major disadvantage in the state of Washington and in Southwest Washington. And I think that's a fault of the politicians. A lot of the people who don't have vision, they keep doing the same thing time and time again. At a certain point, you have to change. You have to change and try something else. I think we have a lot of people who don't understand finance. That's one of the reasons. That's another approach. It's an economic approach, and that I would apply myself if I had an opportunity. And in Battleground, I think I suggest this as one of the approaches, and that's looking at a lot at, we have a lot of, and President Bush brought this, and that's using a lot of faith-based organizations. Okay. I'll give an example in Battleground. On the 17th, we had a drive, where we collected, food for the food bank to fill the Battleground food bank. That was organized by a church. It was not a government organization organized it. It was a church. My point being, there are a lot of religious institutions out there who can provide investment on our communities. I know if you ask, for instance, the Mormon church, which is the church that I belong to, he said, look, we have a need. Let's try, we would like to do something for our youth. They'll probably come and build a youth center. That is saving money to the government. If Vancouver went to the LDS church or another faith base and say, we have this need to help disadvantaged children, maybe that faith-based organization would help. So let's go out of what we've been doing and try something else. And so there are a lot of ideas, but I think what we are doing now is not working. But I think a simple approach would be to, as I said before, to being tax increment financing. 45 years ago, these two parents who couldn't read or write in a war-torn country, they had 7 children, and I just happened to be the 4th one. They knew it was hard because you have so many children, and you don't know if anyone was going to make it, because each day people die. And I saw all of that. I saw relatives, I saw my father, and I saw everybody. And I've always asked the question as a young man, I say, how can people in power allow this to happen? And it frustrated me as a youngster. How can they let someone like me grow up, can't even read? I'm looking at the letters, I can't read anything. People can change this. But see, it was easier for those people to go along so they can get along. It was easier for those people to compromise because they said that's easy. It was easier for those people to build what they call consensus because people are going to like you. And I look in America today and I say we're in trouble, unfortunately, because we forgot what Reagan has taught us. And what Reagan and many leaders of the past, was John Kennedy, President Reagan, and many other people that I respect taught us. And that is, you need to believe and stand for something. It's not about being liked, it's doing the right thing. And that's what I vowed that I was going to do, and I promised that to my mom. That if I ever had the chance, without even knowing that, where would that be? Thank goodness it was America. That I would never let anybody have to make a choice between buying bread or paying a tax, or a choice between a father who is deciding whether I should buy milk for my child or pay a utility fee. I would never do that. I would try to be as creative, I would try to be as helpful, to help many people succeed and have a chance, the chance that I didn't have as a youngster. I don't want another child to struggle that way. I don't want another father to suffer like my father did and my mother did. You know, that's kind of a leader I am, and all I need is a chance. I think I've done it in Battleground. I've stood by myself, even though it was hard. I paid the price. Those who live in Battleground know it. I've paid a price for my positions, but you know what? I wouldn't change anything. You know, I've seen dead people when I was growing up, and I don't want to see that again. Now, granted, there's no war here. But the reality is, someone who doesn't have something to eat, something that I didn't have growing up, going 3-4 days without food, that bothers me. And just because some politician thinks it's a good idea to accomplish this project, that's no reason to punish people. If people give me a chance in Battleground, if people give me a chance in Clark County, I think I can change the dynamics here, and I'm beginning to do that.